We're here, boys. We're back in town.
Wow,
Well, Brianzy's back anyway.
that's a lovely introduction.
Yeah, thanks, dude.
That's
Here with
great.
Nick,
Hi, I'm Nick.
and today I'm leading us off, I think.
Yeah,
Or
let's
well,
do
Nick
it.
will take over again. But we're talking Plague Marines, boys. It's finally happening.
It is finally happening.
Yeah.
We've done a guide up. We've got Brianzy here.
Yep.
Brianzy, you haven't played the Plagues in a little while, but I've taken up that mantle and I've been,
Yes,
been
and
playing them.
yes, and you destroyed me.
Yes.
Absolutely destroyed me. You've taken everything that I've given you
Yes.
and made it
You've
better.
just made me stronger, dude. That's all that is.
There.
Don't even worry.
I'm just a stepping stone, bro.
Well, are you ready to get into it, Brianzy?
Let's do it.
All right.
Alrighty, yeah, the Plague Marines faction guide. So let's talk a little bit about the team. Some of the basic information around it. It's a 6-unit team. You guys can get it with the starter box, or you can just purchase a Death Guard Plague Marines box, and you'll have the same units in it. They might look a little bit different, but
slightly different look.
they're essentially the same.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
They're an elite team, so they have high armor but low mobility in this one. They're currently at this stage at 46% win rate for competition events. And if you put it for Nick, that's 100% for him.
No, it's 66%. I think it's Brianzy, we might be at 48.8. We've got some slightly new hot off the press information there.
So obviously when you play them, this one's like a pretty easy team. So a beginner could pick this team up and they're pretty straightforward. So nice and easy for a beginner. A really important mechanic that they have is called poison, and this is the one that you want to maximize for your team. So basically getting poison tokens on different operatives on the opposing team, you want to really push that poison on, because once it's on there, that enemy operative starts to lose wounds as soon as it activates, or as soon as you get hit with a toxic weapon. So really, really important to get those poison tokens out. And if you're even closer to your opponent, so you're within 3 inches, this is where you maximize those abilities that the Plague Marines have.
All right. Did you want to have a look at some operatives, Brianzy?
Let's do it. Oh, these are my 2 favorite.
Maybe. I don't know.
Plague Marine's
one of my
okay.
favorites.
Plague Marine champion, he's your leader in this team. He's going out there and he's got plasma pistol and a plague sword. Now, the plasma pistol, we always think they're great, but there's no ability there to get poison onto
it's disappointing.
your operatives.
Yeah.
So you really have to get in there melee style and put those poison tokens on. And with that plague sword, you're able to also have a thing called toxic. Well, it only benefits when an operative is poisoned. You increase your damage stat by 1. So it's fantastic. It's just such a great weapon.
Yeah, because then it's 5 on 3. Severe means you get a crit no matter what. Then you become 4/6 with the damage profile. So that can be pretty massive. At that break point, because Marines have 14 health, with the new Raveners, I think it's 21.
Yeah.
So when it becomes like a 5/6, if you can get a crit, which you're gonna get with severe no matter what, and then like 3 hits, and then get them through, once again with contagion on and stuff like that, there's a good chance you can kind of sink quite a few of them through. And if you can, then this guy can just really pump out some massive damage in melee.
I guess it's important to talk about contagion here, because it's basically like acting, if you're within range 3 inches, it's acting on the enemy operative like they're wounded.
Yeah.
So their hit stat is reduced, movement speed. So like they've really got to try and fall back and get out of your 3-inch range to be able to be effective there. So being a Plague Marine champion, great to get in there melee and do some damage.
Plasma pistols kind of okay just to pepper them up, but like Brian was saying, without the poison ability, it kind of just becomes like, if you can finish a guy off with them or chip a guy a little bit, go for it. Kind of really want to focus on the sword with this guy, or throwing grenades.
Yeah, get that poison on first and then charge in and benefit from the toxic there.
And then with the Black Grenades as well and Grandfather's Blessing, the Black Grenade has a 6-inch range and your Grandfather's Blessing has 7 inches of range. So if you can get a Blight Grenade on and splash some damage to 1 or 2 units, then there's a good chance you'll heal up them 3 wounds per turning point as well. which is pretty massive.
Other than that, the Plague Marine champion, he's just a great
Reliable.
operative,
Yeah.
just all rounder.
He's a good guy just to throw down the middle with the Grandfather's Blessing, you know, and the heal and the Playcast, so you can kind of forgive a bit of damage there. And 15 wounds is a pretty good breakpoint, because unless they've got like a sword that does 6 damage, it's very hard to get the 15 wounds, especially with Disgustingly Resilient, which we can talk about later.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's quite a tough breakpoint to kill the Plague Marine champion in a single go. So yeah, very safe to put out there. Pretty good economy unit just to get some heals on, get him down the middle, suck in a few shots, and then let your other more specialist operatives move around and get where they need to go.
Our next operative, Malignant Plaguecaster. He's one of your go-to for healing. So he's got Putrescent Vitality. I can't read that from here.
Yeah, sorry. Putrescent Vitality. And then so one friendly operative within 3 inches. Roll 2d6. If the result's 7, you gain 7 wounds. Otherwise, you get the highest value of one of the d6s.
It's such a great ability to be able to use on the battlefield. The other ability that it has is the Poisonous Miasma. That's also a psychic ability as well. And it says...
visible to and within 7 of this operative, or one enemy operative that's a valid target. So that's the big one. That enemy operative gains a poison token if it doesn't already have one. If it already has one, inflict 3 damage. So that's just a straight up 3 damage.
This is disgusting because Nick did it to me yesterday in a tournament. And I'm arguing. I said, I can't see you. And he's like, I could just see the tip of your arm on your shuriken pistol there. And I was like, he's dead.
Yeah. So this is one where I've just found in a number of games, if you can take a Plague Wing shot, you are going to get a poison counter off usually, and you're going to normally do usually 8 damage, I think, is, 6 to 8 damage is sufficient, right, for this kind of shot. And then if you then pop the Poisonous Miasma, you just do another 3 damage immediately. So for the majority of the teams, that's an operative just gone straight away. It's a really nice little combo. The other thing is that the Poisonous Miasma I've used at the start of a turning point, because if they're about to activate a unit or something like that, and they're at 4 health, then it's you get them down to 1, and then you select another operative to do Plague Wind or heal your guys or whatever you've got to do. But now when that operative activates, it just dies because of the poison.
Yeah.
So really, I didn't use this initially, and then once I realized the value, it's a really, really, really great ability, because the infinite range is huge as long as it's a valid target. So getting your Playcaster up on some vantage doesn't hurt. But there's no rolls, there's no question. It just does 3 damage every time. It's pretty impressive. Definitely super good value there.
Yeah, I even use it just to get a poison token on.
Yeah. If you've got nothing else to do, then for sure, it doesn't hurt. Especially an operative that hasn't activated. Yeah, I mean they're going to lose one straight away, and it's very unlikely that operative's going to try and charge in, because once they're in your contagion range, they're going to act as they're wounded. Or they're injured, or it's going to be hard to get out of the fighting as well, because they're going to fallback. The fallback there's going to reduce their movement as well. So it's poison's just so good. So good. I think the other thing with the Playcaster as well is the Corrupted Staff shouldn't be overlooked. It's not a bad profile. So shocking away a hit with a crit, which you're gonna get because of the severe instantly, is nice. And then because you've got a crit, you can apply the stun also. So it's you're just really hampering a unit down if they happen to be, kind of fighting you or anything like that. So don't forget that the Corrupted Staff's not bad. You can position the Playcaster a little bit more aggressively because the Corrupted Staff is good. But just if I'm playing against Plagues, I'm trying to take the Playcaster out first model. Yeah. Because it's too good to leave up, basically. So just keep that in mind, that people are going to be gunning for it. You want to try and keep it safe. I think popping it behind a heavy barricade and just having it throw support, because then it's the 4 inches to the heavy barricade and then 7 inches past that pretty much gets you to the halfway line almost. And that's a pretty good area denial threat, having him there. And then behind the heavy barricade keeps him pretty safe as well. So Poisonous Miasma and Putrescent Vitality, you don't need to be on engage on either. So you can be doing it all from conceal. Definitely keep all that in mind. It's pretty important.
Don't overlook, like, Entropy up the top there.
Yeah.
It looks like a great skill.
Yeah, with that damage profile's horrific.
Yeah. But Plague Wind is where it's at, where you got no range. You're gonna get a hit. You're gonna get essentially you're gonna get a crit severe. Like, you should be getting it every time pretty much.
Entropy's like you said, Brianzy, like, it's 3/7. So it's like 7 damage. You're getting a crit with the severe anyway. And then you can have Ceaseless with a Lumbering Death. So, like, if anything's within 7 inches of you and a valid target, like, you can just delete it effectively, because there's a good
any Marine, any Elite.
Yeah, any Elite. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You can really do some damage. Yeah, 2 crits and they're dead. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. Lumbering Death is what you want to use with your Plague caster and any shooting ability at the moment.
Yeah.
Get that Ceaseless.
Next, we've got the next 2 main players, I guess, in my mind at least.
The Plague Marine Bombardier, he's a great little operative here. He's got unlimited uses of Blight Grenades.
Yes.
With Toxic, and it, like it says up there, it is nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
The other fact that it has, it's also got the ability to use crack grenades as well.
Yeah.
So if you, there's a bit of text down the bottom, but if you happen to bring along in your equipment crack grenades and blight grenades, you actually improve the stat of those in your shooting. So, and you also, with blight grenades, you also get toxic as well. So powerful.
Yeah. I think the big thing as well is that the blight grenades give you, like, it will poison guys up. You kind of think that he's good for the grenades, which he is, don't get me wrong, but he's also good just to shoot because of the limit, like, no range limitations. So very, very important unit, and the playgrounds just back that up in terms of the severe and poison.
Yeah. So getting severe with your bolt gun, perfect. It's a normal profile, but you're getting a guaranteed
crit. So the guaranteed crit, I think I worked out, is it's kind of like having piercing, because it just adds an extra hit that, then has to be blocked. So if you can kind of hit with 3 hits on a 3-up, which is not, unachievable, and then one of them's a crit automatically, it's effectively like having 4 hits that the opponent needs to roll against, unless they're lucky enough to roll a 6. So severe on all of these. On all of these profiles is pretty nice.
Yeah, and you can gain access to Ceaseless again through Lumbering Death.
Yes.
For both your grenades, your blight grenades there, crack grenades, or bolt guns. Yeah, plenty of options. And what I like about the blight grenades is that you don't even need to roll a crit, right? If you're getting hits on there, you're guaranteed a crit, but if you just want to hit the target.
Yeah, to get the poison. Like
that's all you were really trying to do. You're just trying to get the poison out, and that's going to do a lot of work for you in the long run.
All right. What about the Icon Bearer, Brianzy?
Yeah, I like him, but he's not my go-to.
Yes, he's one that if I want to take the heavy gunner, I'm probably taking the Icon Bearer off the team to put the heavy gunner in personally.
Yeah, and look, I haven't really taken the heavy gunner that many times either. And we'll talk about that when it comes to it. But the Plague Marine Icon Bearer, he basically can get you free contagion.
Yes.
When you strap Ploys, that can be a struggle because our guys are slow.
I think I worked out if you take the reposition scouting option and reposition this guy 3 inches forward, you can get it from turning point 2. But if you don't, you can't make it. So you're not going to get it until turning point 3, which is a bit disappointing because at that point, it's good to have for sure, don't get me wrong. But it's kind of good to have all the time. So you'll end up spending the CP anyway in generally turning point 2, if not sometimes turning point 1. So just keep that in mind that by the time it comes online, a lot of the time, by the time it comes online, the Icon Bearer is dead.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's kind of one of the units I throw up there as like a, hey, pay attention to this while I move my actual key pieces up where I need them.
And the reason also why you throw him up there is that his Plague Knife is
great.
Is perfect to get into melee. It's 5-on-3.
Yeah.
3/4.
And then you've got the severe.
So guaranteed crit there. and poison. So
this guy can just
very nice.
and he can throw grenades. So this is the other thing is like if I can get my guys up just to throw grenades, that's what I'm doing generally. Just getting them up there, throwing the grenades around, and then just trying to just get that chip damage in with the poison tokens, and that way, as they're activating, they're kind of starting to lose most of their health.
And the other thing is you've got up there in our little overview that it's a good bait unit. So bringing operatives closer to him.
People love killing
and the reason they do as well is because if he's on an objective marker, his AP counts as one higher.
Yeah.
One stat higher.
Yeah.
It's pretty good to get out there and move around.
Yeah, for sure. All right. The last 3 units we've got available.
The heavy gunner, he's got a great profile here of a range 7 inches. It's a little plague spewer, but the real idea around this plague spewer is that it's got torrent 2 and it is spreading your poison. That's what it wants to do. You want to spread your poison. You're not worried about the damage profile there. The only limitation with this is that it is 7 inches.
I would consider potentially even torrent Brianzy to a degree because they need to be valid targets, and because this guy moves so slowly, it's very hard to get like multiple valid targets. If it was blast, it would be the best operative on the team. But
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but with the torrent, it can be a bit tough. So I think the other thing is like, why doesn't it have toxic? If it had toxic and that profile went to 4/4, then I think you'd effectively just take it every turn. The one thing I found at the moment is if I'm playing like an 11 or more operative team, I'll take it because it just pressures them to stay away from each other. So you kind of water down that threat. But if they are, if it's elves or less, kind of like 9 to 8 operatives or less, they're never within 2 inches of each other. They can spread out enough. You have to also make it to them before you're killed, which, it can be multiple rounds. Could be going into turning point 3 before you're actually within the 7-inch range that you need to actually shoot. So that's a bit of an issue as well. But it is another one of them pieces where people see it and they want to kill it, which is that's nice in a sense, because then they're going to pour resources into it. And if you don't really care about it, or if you are using it as a bait, then that's a pretty huge advantage to you, because you can kind of put it in a spot where they're going to engage to get to it or engage to shoot it, and then your other, your warrior, your bombardier, your champion, all with the unlimited range weapons, can then start shooting at them targets. So there is some potential there. You
talked about the profile there. I reckon even if they changed fists to a plague knife, right? I think that would be my takeaway. Like range 7 after that, this guy's going in and he's going to try and shoot, and then he's going to charge and fight. That's basically what I'd be getting him to do.
Yeah.
Because you'd be killing things left, right, and center after that.
Yeah. There's always the grenade as well. Like, you've got 2 blight bombs, use them as much as you can, basically. So don't forget that if the torrent isn't going to work for you, throw the grenade instead. It's only an inch of range difference, but you're going to have blast 2 instead of torrent 2. You're going to have kind of the same kind of damage profile. You're just going to be hitting with 1 less dice and a slightly worse hit stat. So,
but overall, I'm not usually taking this one.
No, he sits in my.
This operative.
He's one of my funnest ones, I think, for paint, but I leave him the most.
Yeah, absolutely. The Plague Marine Warrior, this one he's your boss. And Nik and I both have different views of how we use the Warrior. And I'll sort of run through my view of how I use it. But Nik will give a great way of using it. So the way I use my Warrior on the kill zone is I sort of sit him back as a defensive tool because he's got that unlimited range ability with his bolt gun. Got Toxic on it, which is great.
Yeah, it's huge.
I think he's the only one that's got Toxic on his bolt gun.
Yeah.
So my idea is that I leave him back and he's like my last piece to start moving up the field later on. So maybe turning point 3 or toward, if I haven't activated him in turning point 2, I'll start slowly moving him up the field. He's the one that I'm using as my main shooter overall. The Plague Caster's there to support, but he's just to get that toxic rounds in when he's shooting. He's got that great ability, the defensive ability there called Repulsive Fortitude. And then, so whenever an operative is shooting him, he can roll defense dice. If they're 5 up, they're critical successes. That's just great. It's just like having lethal 5, right?
Yes. Yeah, lethal 5 on
your save.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Brianzy,
So
I can definitely see the value in Brianzy's approach to having him effectively as a sniper. Because once Toxic's online, that's a 4-5 damage profile, which is pretty tasty when it comes to range profiles. I found with the Plague Marine Warrior, I like to put him on a point, like rush him up the board and put him on an objective, like a crit point, and then just turn him on to engage as if I'm going to counteract with him and then bait shots. Because I feel a little bit more comfortable with the 5+ crits, I just think that you can survive a little bit more when you combo that, disgustingly resilient, and then having the Plaguecaster like hopefully somewhere kind of nearby. And then what I kind of do then is I pressure that area with him, because he can shoot so well when the Toxic's online. And just remember, the first shot that you do, you try and get the poison through, and then the second shot you do, the Toxic's online for that if you're taking 2 shoot actions. So that becomes pretty huge, because you can really start to stack the damage on, if not just delete units, with that second shot, the second lot of shots going through. And then obviously, once again, his survivability just allows him to take a few hits. So if you can I did it on the weekend where I had a crit point behind a bit of heavy terrain on Volcus. I just pushed him right up to the heavy terrain. He's pretty tall, so he can generally see over the rubble. I engaged him and left him there so he could counteract, which he managed to counteract and poison a guy. And then the start of the next turn, I just shot twice, deleted a guy off the board, capped the point, and then just left him there. And, they shot at him a couple of times and it just kind of bounced off. So yeah, I like to play him a little bit more aggressively. It does hurt a little bit when you lose him compared to maybe the Icon Bearer, but at the same time, Brianzy's method's definitely valid as well. I think it maybe is opponent dependent a little bit. With my Phobos match off, that's probably something I should have done a bit more. Just leave him back a little further to pressure their sniper.
Yeah, and you can get ceaseless with Lumbering Death.
Yes, of course.
So
yeah.
If he's not moving too much, I think it's just so powerful.
Yeah,
and then third dot point there, where you're combining Repulsive Fortitude with Disgusting Resilient, because that's one of their abilities. Yeah, and they're able to survive a lot better when they're rolling. Yeah, and rolling. Especially critical successes on 5.
Yeah, especially when you get other weapon profiles that have the severe, because that critical success on 5 just makes it like a 33% chance for you to save that severe, which is pretty nice. Yeah. But yeah, Brianzy, what about the fighter, mate? What have we got?
The fighter, he's amazing. Like you've written there, flail. The flail ability is really good. And just the flail itself is really good.
Yeah.
His weapon. So if you get him, and you did this to me on the weekend, which was just, it destroyed me. Picture this, turning point 2. I've got my models just behind, ready to move up. They're not even activated yet, and the fighter just repositions and gets in.
Yeah, reposition and
dashes. Flails.
Yeah.
And it just does damage. It destroyed, I was ruined.
Yeah.
It was so bad.
The flail also hits your own units, though. So just be careful. Well, if you're crowded up and you roll a D3 on yourself, you can poison yourself, I think, which is kind of annoying.
Yeah.
So just try and keep that in mind, that the flail will hit everything. It says each other operative. It doesn't specify enemy operative. So it's literally each other operative within that area. So just keep that in mind. The actual melee profile's not bad. 5-on-3, 4-5, brutal, severe, shock, poison. The big key things here is, with the brutal, severe, and shock, they're not going to be able to parry your hits. So be prepared to take damage when you fight with the fighter, because basically you can parry theirs out to a degree, but they're not going to waste time trying to parry yours. They're just going to hit you with their damage dice. So if you're going up against something else that has 5 attacks and a 3 up, you're probably going to take 3 hits, 2 or 3 hits at least. Against some other, like Nemesis Claw or Legionnaires or Angels of Death, that's not great. Basically.
No. It would be nice if the flail also had the toxic ability.
Yeah, for sure. Or poison. It only poisons on a 3, which is, once again, like a 33% chance. So I've definitely hit a lot of units and not had them become poisoned, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, or even Flail of Corruption, if it had toxic, remove the poison.
Yeah, potentially, yeah.
Because you want to combine it together really to get in there, and don't be afraid. The fighter, it can shoot, and the only way it can shoot is throwing grenades.
Yeah.
It's a perfect operative to slam into your opponents, especially when there's a big group.
Yeah. You need to move this one up because it doesn't have much ranged ability. So that means you're going to potentially waste your blight bombs on it, like with your 2 spare ones. So you do need to kind of push it up the board pretty quickly and early on to have it on line A for its flail and B for the blight grenades. Just and it doesn't have any access to any healing or any kind of nice abilities like the warrior or the champion. So it does go down. It feels like a little quicker than most of the other pieces.
It definitely can. But you got severe, you get hitting a crit.
Yeah.
You're probably going to get rid of a normal. You're definitely going to get rid of a normal there.
Yeah.
If they're charging into you and you're using flail, you're going to have a ceaseless from lumbering death. So
yeah.
You'll be fine.
Let's have I think we've got the equipment and stuff up next, so let's have a look at that, Brianzy, and make sure we're getting it right.
Let's do it.
Team equipment, Brianzy, don't know if you want to run through it.
Yeah, dude, I'll run through it. The equipment options are great, and you almost take them every time. Your plague bells, you can ignore any changes to your stats. This also is great for their survivability, so if they're down on 4 wounds or 5 wounds, they're going to be able to move around still. And they're still going to be able to do damage without the repercussions. You've got your blight grenades and your playgrounds, and your blight grenades we've talked about, but they're range ability, so they're range 6, and they're profiled for that.
You're getting severe on it as well, so it's like one of them's gonna be a 4. So once again, like it doesn't feel, you only get 2 of them. 4 on 4 isn't great. Obviously, combo it with lumbering death to get 4 on 4 with ceaseless. So it's kind of nice because at least you hopefully reroll 1. But yeah, they definitely, you need them like on certain units, like the icon bearer or like the fighter, right? Because otherwise they just don't really have anything reliable to use. And the black
and you want to get the poison out. The great thing is it's blast 2. It's going to be effective. Saturate, the cherry on top. With our playgrounds, friendly operatives with bolt guns or bolt pistols will have poison and severe.
Which is nice.
So really nice. And last but not least, the poison vents. These just help you inflict damage. So whenever an operative is within 3 inches, and this stacking with contagion.
Oh, well, the contagion does. Yeah, the contagion is just the reduction in the hit and the movement. So it doesn't actually do damage, which I think a lot of people, you think it does because of the name.
But both of them, you like to be effective, you want to be within 3 inches.
Yes, that's right.
Of an operative.
Huge. Yeah.
If you want to, you could get in there nice and close, and when that operative activates, bang, they're going to take some damage.
This is one where it's like, I think you need to consider it against the matchup. Like if you're going against a full shooting team, you're probably never going to be within 3, so don't bother bringing it. At that point, you can trade it out for smokes, to help you move up the board, or for barricades to help you move up the board. If you think you're going up against like something that is kind of melee heavy like Goremongers, then this is huge because they're going to probably start an activation within the 3 of you. A, because their wrist chains activate within 2, and B, because they're going to want to charge and fight. So doing 3 out of the 10 wounds that they have available when they activate, that's pretty massive.
Yeah.
The other thing is that you need to watch out for is that if the enemy starts to build light barricades and razor wire and things that slow you down, you're already slow. So you need to really consider how you're going to move around that, because a 3-inch move, taking out 2 inches for a barricade, is pretty horrific. That means you're moving and dashing a total of 6, that turning point, which isn't great. Yeah. And the big thing is as well is that that 2 inches to climb, like I always find you get it when you don't have enough movement to actually clear the objective or the obstacle. So it's like you just then like all of a sudden can't move past a certain point that turn, and you need to like stage up again. So just if you see them taking them kinds of equipment and then positioning them across the halfway line, like along the midline of the board, then maybe just consider what you can do about that, or how you can move or position in relation to that, because they're going to just wall you out and try and shoot you down, which is a pretty tough thing to survive. I think there's definitely maps where if it's open enough for you to use range effectively, then for sure, go for the ladders. I think the only thing I've had where I haven't considered the ladders is if I've got good cover from them on the ground and I know that I can stay out of line of sight, or I know that I can stay so they're going to be, I'm going to be obscured because of the terrain, I generally won't worry about the ladders and I'll just stay on the ground and force them to come to me. Because if you climb up there and then just kind of have a shoot off, then, you've got to kind of put 2 operatives up on vantage out of the 6 operatives you've got, which means you're, a third of your team down on contesting points on the ground. So just, obviously that's map dependent and stuff like that, but just consider that having them on the ground and not giving your enemy shots means they have to come to you, and when they do, you're at full strength to kind of take them down. All right, let's have a look at the ploys, Brianzy.
Yeah, this is the great stuff.
So the lumbering death is, just before we do this, because this is something I mess up all the time, it's whenever a friendly operative are shooting or fighting in an activation which it hasn't moved more than 3, or whenever it's retaliating. So it's pretty massive because it covers so many instances. It covers like every opportunity that you have, as long as you haven't moved more than 3 for the fighting or shooting. So I just want to get that out there, because it's a lot of the time I'm like, wait, can I do it? It seems so strong, is I guess where I'm at, where it's like I'm constantly rereading it to make sure I'm getting it right, because it's ridiculous, like ceaseless on everything. Effectively, it
doesn't say counteraction in that instance.
That's true.
You could probably argue it. That's always in my mind. Is it counteraction?
Yeah, I think it got ruled. I think it got ruled for me on the weekend that it does count during a counteraction. It doesn't technically. I think a counteraction isn't an activation, but I think the TO ruled it that it would have been like that. It is counted at that point. So anyway, Contagion and Lumbering Death are obviously your 2 big ones. They're doing the most work, because anyone that's charging in to fight you when you've got Contagion on is automatically 1 worse, which is just massive. It's effectively like being injured, which is pretty huge, and it disrupts the breakpoints of a lot of weapons when you go from 3 to hit to a 4 to hit. And then obviously, it's pretty strong with the Icon Bearer and with when they're poisoned, because then it's within 3 inches, which is quite nice as well. So even if they're activating within 3 inches, you're worsening that movement stat, which can be huge for them trying to get away from you or trying to move around you and deny you particular things, like, for example, plant beacons or contain. So definitely keep that in mind, the 3 inches in mind, because it's something I forget pretty often.
You got Cloud of Flies as one of your ploys, and like it says up there, it feels weak. I can see you've got when you could throw a free smoke from your equipment.
Yeah, that was kind of my thing, where it's like, if you feel like you're going up against a heavy shooting team, do you want to waste the CP on Cloud of Flies when you kind of want to take Lumbering Death? You potentially want to use, Curse of Rot or Virulent Poison. You've got so many good options there that wasting a CP on Cloud of Flies doesn't feel great a lot of the time.
If you're going up against strong teams, you're going to be using Sickening Resilience, especially shooting teams.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
They've got ways to be able to get Ceaseless or Rending or Relentless, whatever.
Yeah, the amount of times Sickening Resilience kept me alive, when it's, you take 12 damage and over 4 dice or something like that, and it's like, okay, but remove 4, now it's only 8 damage, so I'm still on 6, and it makes a really big difference.
Yeah, and if you're not familiar with Sickening Resilience, it's basically a guaranteed, it's guaranteed to subtract 1 damage from each inflicted damage.
Yes, but it's also, what's important to remember is it's until the end of the activation. So if that's 2 fighting rounds, someone charges you and fights twice, it counts for both of them. Or if they shoot you, then charge you and fight you. So just remember, it's not just one sequence, it's the entire activation. So that's really big. Just quick, before we leave the strategy, please, Brian, I know we kind of jumped ahead a little bit, but Nurglings is one of them abilities where it doesn't seem to be very good value until it's exactly what you need to deny someone a point, or you can see an enemy operative, for example, needs to charge you, fight you, kill you, and then cap the point, and it's like you can kind of see that coming. So it's like you Nurgling them, and then all of a sudden they've only got 2 APL, so they can either just charge you and fight you, or they can try and avoid you or like shoot you and then move, but they aren't tapping that point generally. So Nurglings is one of them things where it's like, in a tight game, when it kind of comes down to the line, just denying an APL, it's expensive, I think, a CP to do that, but it's pretty nice in certain situations. So I've definitely had it a couple of times where it's like I've just done it and the opponent's just been like, oh, okay, well now there goes me, potentially getting that upload or something along those lines. So yeah, keep in mind it's power.
Especially if they're doing like storm the objective or something, and they're just out.
Yes.
At a range or something like that. They can't do a dash to get in there.
They might need a reposition and dash or something. Yeah. A shoot, reposition and dash. Yeah, it can be pretty massive.
Well, you're always trying to take Contagion or Lumbering Death. Like they're your go-tos.
And just remember the Lumbering Death, it's like you fight or shoot first and then move. You know what I mean? Like get the shooting done and then move. Don't move first and then do the shooting if you can avoid it.
Your 5-fight Ploys, so we just talked about Sicken and Resilience, but it's situational and it's strong. You should be using it if you can. Keep a CP ready for it.
It's just hard. It's hard to tell when it's when it's going to be good. I think if it's someone is a while away, like a Marine's a while away, and they shoot at you once, as soon as the damage dice goes down and you've whiffed a few saves, then just do it, because they're probably going to shoot at you again, and at that point you're probably going to save yourself maybe 3 or 4 damage at least over that turning point, which is effectively like just removing a whole damage dice. So yeah, just keep that in mind.
Curse of Rot can catch opponents unaware, and that's also a great one to keep afloat there, because after your opponent rolls their attack or defense dice, for each result of 3, inflict 1 damage on that enemy. I don't know how many times I've rolled a 3.
I was all weekend I was looking for like 3 threes to pop this off. I think even if the enemy's on the cusp of being injured and they roll 2 threes, I think it's worth using to get them into that threshold. But yeah.
The other thing there is like that end little bit there, which I didn't read yet, but it inflicts 1 damage on that enemy operative, but that result is treated as a fail.
That's the big part.
There's so many, like an auto bolt pistol, they're shooting at you.
Yeah.
They're hitting on 3s. So
the only bad thing about this ploy is knowing on which time to use it. Because like I said, there's a lot of times where it's like 1-3 came through, and it's like, I don't really just want to deal 1 damage, and I can afford to take this hit. And then later on in the game, they would roll 2 4s and 2 2s, and I wouldn't get a chance to use this because no 3s had come up, and I would die. So it's like, if I had used it earlier, it might have kept me alive, but at the same time, I was kind of waiting for a better opportunity. So if you're going up against someone that has 5 dice, just have this in the back of your mind, because the odds are with 5 dice, they're going to roll 1 or 2 3s, or 6 dice. And then at that point it's very good, because you don't have to make the saves. You can just ignore the damage on the 3s. They can take a couple of damage if they're poisoned. Yeah, it's pretty huge. So definitely one to keep in mind.
It's almost like almost just a scratch.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
You got Poisonous Demise. It reads, Plague Marine operative is incapacitated before it's removed from the kill zone. Each enemy operative that's visible to and within 3 inches of that operative gains 1 of your poison tokens.
And if they've already got 1, they just take a damage instead.
That's important, that visible. It doesn't have to be a valid target. If they can see them, they're going to get 1 of those poison tokens.
Yeah, this is definitely one where it doesn't seem like 1 doesn't seem like a lot, but if you're hitting 3 guys, then 3 damage is not nothing. And especially if they're starting to tip towards that being injured, or they're yet to activate and they've only got 3 health left, then 1 damage takes them down to 2. If you can get another operative there, then they are gonna then have a D3 potentially with poison vents. So that's a pretty good chance that they die in their activation. So it's once again just really thinking about, how can you make it benefit you, and how can you get it to chip them down just that little bit more to try and guarantee a kill on their activation with the poison. Pretty good. Definitely a pretty good one. And the other thing is like usually when you're getting incapacitated, it's through a fight. I don't find myself getting incapacitated very often through shooting unless I'm kind of letting it happen. So at that point, especially with the more operative teams like the elves, there's probably 1 or 2 other ones around somewhere. And Poisonous Demise is gonna get them both. So, Brianzy, what's our last one? Virulent Poison.
Virulent Poison, yeah. So an enemy operative, when they're activating or on their counter action, Before or after it performs an action, select one of the following. Have one enemy operative within 3 inches of that operative gain one of your poison tokens, if it doesn't have one already.
Or you roll 2d6.
Yeah, roll 2d6.
And if it's 7
and if
or
the result
higher,
is 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then within 7 inches, they gain a poison token.
So it's so good.
The key to this one is to use it before you shoot with a toxic profile or before you fight with a toxic profile. Because you can just then, have that higher damage profile. It's pretty easy. Rolling 7 or above, like 7's the average number. So rolling 7 or higher, I think there's a pretty good chance, almost like 55% chance that you do. I think it's worth the gamble, especially in the right situation. Yeah, you just want to do it to shore up your abilities to have that toxic do some more damage. So just consider that. You can do it for the warrior uses the bolt gun, for example, or the champion charges in with the plague knife and does the toxic on that. So now we've probably covered, Brianzy, a lot of these, but maybe we can just run through them quickly. If you've got any suggestions that you want to add there, just let us know. Team consideration. So these are just general considerations when you're playing the team to keep in mind. So we've talked about this. Due to your slow movement, I like to try and move and dash in turning point 1 to get as far up the board as I can whilst avoiding shots. Because shots in turning point 1 and 2, you've only got one heal. You can't heal multiple units in a turning point. So you want to avoid taking shots for as long as possible. And if you do have to take shots, try and bait them with the right operative, i.e. the warrior or the champion, because champion has a chance to heal himself back D3 or 3 hits, 3 points of HP, and the warrior just has a better save characteristic because of the lethal 5-up save. Yeah. Poison tokens, as we've discussed multiple times throughout here, make or break the team. You really need to prioritize getting poison tokens out there as early as possible. Getting poison tokens out on turning point 2 means you do 2 damage, 1 on turning point 3, 1 on turning point 4, without poison vents in the scheme. So if you can get them out on turning point 1, then that increases it from 2 damage to 3, which is a 50% increase. So I'd like to try and take shots if they're available and bait shots with the champion or the warrior. So enemies are engaged and I can counteract and shoot them back. So that gets the poison happening, and then that way, I'm guaranteeing 3 damage. Because if it's an 8 wound model that you're up against, 3 of that is a good chunk of their health. It's over a third of their health. And that's just from them activating each turn. So just keep that in mind. Getting the poison out is huge. I think your playstyle depends on your opponent. If you're playing against a shooty team, get into the strongholds, get into the little rooms that are high value, and then just make them shooting teams come to you and deny them the ability to shoot you. If you're going up against a melee team, try and pepper them before they get to you, because the plagues generally don't have the best melee profiles in the game. They're great, don't get me wrong, but against elves that are hitting on like 4-6 with a power weapon or something along them lines, you will die ultimately. Yes, and the 14 wounds is great. You might kill them on the way down. They've got more models than you, so you can't afford to trade 1 for 1. So just adapt your playstyle, try and chip that damage on a melee team before they get to you, and then take them down. Shooting teams, try and deny them the opportunity to shoot, make them come to you. Into horde teams, this once again, adaptation. Blight grenades are really good. Poison vents is reliable chip if you can get close to them, because you're going to do 3 damage. 3 damage on a 7 wound operative is pretty much 50%. They're going to go down very, very quickly, and you don't have a lot of torrent outside of the heavy gunner or blast. So the blight grenades are really your only effective way of doing damage on multiple operatives within a single activation. Because you're out activated, you're going to need to try and do chip damage to as many operatives as you can to balance that scale. Horde teams, once again, as we just touched on, is probably the only time the heavy gun is really viable in my mind with that profile, the 2-inch torrent. Into the elites, crack grenades I think are very, very handy, and the bolt guns become much more valuable in terms of you shooting twice with toxic. That makes the damage profile obviously 4-5 instead of 3-4. 4 onto an elite, 4 hits on 4 is 16, that's a dead elite. So if you can get through 2 on each lot of the shoots, then you're killing an elite with that. So, and then the crack grenades for your fighter who doesn't have any range profile, that's just going to help him get a little chip damage in before he goes into combat. I think the Icon Bearer and the Fighter are probably your most expendable operatives in terms of they don't have their own reliable shooting profiles necessarily. Once they've thrown the grenades, the Icon Bearer has an 8-inch pistol, but that's kind of it. You do get free contagion, which is lovely, but at the same time, if you can sacrifice the Icon Bearer to take down a few units or put yourself in a better position, then, hopefully you've got the CP available just to take contagion anyway. And like I said previously, you're not really getting it until turning point 3 because of how slow they move. So if it can get you a few guaranteed kills before turning point 3, I think it's worth it just to spend the CP on contagion rather than try and keep your Icon Bearer protected and safe somewhere. Brianzy, did you have anything there that you wanted to add before we get into the more detailed stuff?
Well, with your Icon Bearer and your Fighter, yeah, they're expendable, but if they can stay in until turning point 3,
yeah, obviously
6 operatives there.
Yeah, don't get them killed for no reason, for sure.
Yeah,
but I think if you've got to sacrifice a unit, they're the ones you should be looking at sacrificing. I think everything else is worth keeping on the table over them too, particularly. All right. We then have the next lot of tips and trips. So using the Warrior Champion aggressively, I think, once again, I touched on this. Brianzy likes to keep his Warrior back a little bit. I like to use mine a bit more to keep my Playcaster and Bombardier safer. I figure you need a couple of frontline troops. Warrior and Champion, they have the heal and the lethal 5-up save to keep themselves just a little bit alive easier. Therefore, they can be deployed a little bit more aggressively. I think the Playcaster Bombardier in support is the perfect kind of combo for each of them units. Playcaster can heal the Warrior, and the Bombardier, if he can get the chip damage out with a Blight Grenade, then you're going to get 3 points of healing onto your champion. So there is a little bit of synergy there in my mind. I think into the strong teams, the Fighter with Shock on the Flail can be important. But once again, you have to get him up there, and he needs to be able to get in there and swing with probably some backup from the Playcaster. That means the Playcaster has to be within 3 inches of him, and that kind of opens up its own can of worms in terms of if they can charge the Fighter, then they're probably not too far away from charging the Playcaster also. So just keep that in mind. Fighters, your melee-only unit, he does okay in melee, but putting him up there pretty much kind of damns him at the same time. Containe's probably one of your better attack ops just because you're slow movement. Generally, by turning point 2, you're at the midline, so you can deal with anything at the midline with you or coming past. Over the weekend, though, I found Take Ground, because I played a lot of games on Volcus, was just very easy. I had maps where the strongholds were in the middle, and like both of them, so it's kind of like I could just kind of take one or the other and just sit in there and get my 6 points. I think the Storm objectives and Overrun and Champion are a little temperamental depending on the map and the team you're playing against. I think Contain is generally just, once again, turning point 2, you're basically getting to the midway point. At that point, it's not like you've over positioned and they're able to get in behind you. You're there, so they're going to have to walk right past you. You're probably going to have counteracts available. I've found every time I take Contain, it's very easy just to score, max that out. But it's safe in the strongholds against shooting teams. So, for Take Ground, there's a bit to say there as well. It can be considered quite viable. It's easy to achieve. As we touched on before in the equipment, it's hard to pass the halfway line by turning point 2, especially if there's terrain in the way. You can do it potentially with a reposition, but it's pretty tough. Most of your poison abilities, we'll move on to the next one, need you to be within 3. So this kind of ties into that terrain. Like if you're having a hard time getting there, just keep in mind that you're not going to have access to all of your best stuff. You need to try and get within 3 by the start of turning point 3 to maximize your value on the chip damage and your ploys. With limited long range, it can be hard to keep pressure on lanes, especially shooting lanes. So just keep in mind, once again, we've discussed moving up safely, remaining in conceal if you need to safely move up under heavy terrain. And just make sure you're able to get to the halfway point and to turning point 2 without having been shot off the board. And then toxic breakpoints make your weapons much more favorable. If you've got toxic on your weapon, you want to have a poison token out there. either by using Poisonous Miasma or using the Ploy, whatever it takes to get the poison tokens out there if you can't get them on with a poison. Get them out there so at least your toxic breakpoints can do you some work. Was there anything there, Brian, you wanted to add before we moved on to the conclusion?
No, I think you like taking Entain is generally the one I usually take. I've dabbled with Storm the Objective, and that can work maybe in Into the Dark really well.
Yeah.
And Take Ground definitely works quite well if if there's a center stronghold.
Yeah.
No one wants to run into you because you're big and beefy. They're going to try and shoot into you. So you can get in there and have the advantage while you're in there as well.
Yeah, and it depends on the team you're going up against as well. Like if you're going up against other Marines, then it's going to be tough to do Take Ground, I think, in some scenarios. So Contain might work better. Yeah, it's really situational. Be flexible with your decisions and just ensure that you know what your enemy can do. And that kind of leads us on to this anyway, Brianzy. So understanding your strengths with the Plague Marines, you're tough, you do a lot of chip damage. You know, if you can get that chip damage out, you can and be within 3 inches, you're going to have a pretty good time. You need to understand your opponent's strengths and their weaknesses, what they can do, how they can do it. Same thing we kind of annoy you with every slideshow with ours. It's just to make sure you understand what your opponents can do. It caught me out on the weekend twice where I just got caught out with what the Phobos could do, and it just kind of didn't feel good.
Yeah.
But so the team's slow and hard yet hardy. You can access a solid heal. So this is wrong. Twice per counteract. I found out you can't do this. So you can only use the psychic abilities once per turning point. So if you have issues with mobile operatives and charge distances, you're gonna have a hard time with them because it's very hard when they can charge potentially up to 9 inches. It makes it very hard for you to stage nicely. So just keep in mind what the enemy can do. I know going up against the elves with a 9-inch charge or potentially a 3-inch reposition, a 3-inch dash and a 7-inch reposition means 10 inches of movement. Just make sure you're measuring what your opponents can do because you can't outmove them. So just make sure you're measuring what they do and where they can get to. I think certain models need to be considered as bait. Don't get too attached to particular models. If they die, designate one or two to be that person and just be okay with them dying. I think if they get in the wrong spot, it's worth it if you can get the early poisons out in the turning point 1, turning point 2 kind of area.
Yeah.
I think scoring a crit should be a priority with the Plagueys because they can contest the points so well. And then I think your attack is your next most important thing, and then kill should be your final priority. So I think keeping alive and playing safe favors the Plagues because they've just got such a good profile. You could generally score crit and attack at the same time with a lot of attacks like Take Ground or Contain, depending on the map. So it's very easy to get the 12 points there for them two things. Kill is always going to be tough because you have to chase people down even if you're doing well, and you just don't have the movement to do that. So don't worry about kill ultimately. Number 7 is poison's your biggest advantage. Try to ensure that every model is poisoned as often as you can. Toxic then flowing in from that makes your breakpoints much more favorable, and then you need to be within 3 inches of your opponent's models to access all your tools, poison vents, contagion, etc. So, them 3 points are all important. They all work together. Poison, toxic, within 3 inches. Can't say it enough for this team. That's what it really needs to be. Certain models work well together. Try and keep key pieces so they can pivot where needed. So don't put your playcaster on one end of the map and then, all of a sudden he has to try and run to the other side of the map to heal someone. Keep the playcaster in the center so he can pivot in either direction as required. Kind of the same with the Bombardier, I think, a lot of the time, because he has unlimited access to the grenades. You really want to have him where you need him. It always really sucks when you have a swarm of guys come up one side and you've got nothing to hit multiple guys at once if you've thrown both your grenades already. So I would consider the Bombardier another unit where you want to have him available to pivot in one direction or the other. And then finally, don't be scared to change the play style to suit the opponent. This is a really big one where it's like you can't play the same game with Plagues against every single person. You do need to change it up. So don't be scared to change up your tack. Don't be scared to change up the way you stage, etc., etc. Once again, some shooting teams are going to just want to take you off the board and never get within 3 inches of you. So you make them come to you. And then with the melee heavy teams, just try and chip them down before they get to you. So just keep them things in mind, I think, and you can do really well. The Plagues are a great team.
Yeah, absolutely. One more point on there: keep a CP available each turning point, because it's really important. That's sickening resilience, great survivability there to help you.
All the demise, yeah. There's
demise.
Each one of your firefight ploys is like you don't want to necessarily use it every turning point. But there's going to be key times where it's going to just make or break a turning point. So, yeah, definitely having one available, just in case is pretty handy. Even if it's just to throw a poison token out, right? Like at the end of turning point 1 or something.
Or you want to keep, your throwaway piece, like a fighter or your icon bearer, just alive for one more turning point so you can have an activation even.
Yeah, for sure.
It's good. It's good. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that's it. Brianzy, thanks for jumping in with me, dude. Really appreciate it, running through it.
Anytime, dude. Anytime. And once we get these subscribers coming in, we'll do more and more.
Yeah, well, we've got Aquilons coming up soon. I think I'm playing Exaction Squad a bit at the moment, so that'll be a fun one. You're gonna have Blades of Khaine. I think Nik is building his Goremongers at the moment. So yeah, lots of stuff on the horizon. I'm still doing a game here or there with the Mandrakes. So yeah, we'll definitely, as we go, we'll definitely get some more stuff out there.
Keep watching us.
Yeah.
Subscribe. Hit that like button.
All right, I'm cutting you off, Brianzy.
Yeah, cut me off, bro.
All right.